All right. Welcome back, everyone, to Intelligent Voices Israelites. I am your brother, your friend, Israel Yah. Tonight we have a special segment tonight that we will be discussing about the Passover and unleavened bread. And we will be also talking about mostly all of the feasts that are meant to be kept, because a lot of brothers and sisters don't understand how important these feasts are to the Almighty, our Father. So here it is. He has sent in a word for all our brothers and sisters tonight to actually, here it is, get the ingredients to your Passover and your unleavened bread, meaning your system, your spiritual system. So we're going to get really into it. Probably going to be about an hour tops, hopefully. If not, then praise Yah for the continuation. And we're going to actually make sure that brothers and sisters know that this is the right and the best way to come at when you actually starting your Passover or beginning into your Israelite journey, to therefore have this ingredients also told to you, so that way you can actually know this is a serious thing and this is not something that you should be playing around with, because the Passover, as we're going to see, it holds very significant importance. And we also see that the unleavened bread, the Feast of Booths, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Dedication, and then, as I just stated, the unleavened bread. So we're going to go into it, but we're going to first make sure all our brothers and sisters out there are continuing in their way with Yah, making sure that they do all the things that is important by listening to your conscious mind, because here it is, your spirit is the thing that actually communicates with you. So we all have a conscience. That means that we all have a spirit. And that means here it is, we actually know exactly when we are actually doing something right, or if we are basically confused, or if we're doing something wrong. But now here it is, the Hebrew Bible have come into certain people's atmosphere as well as mine and yours, brothers and sisters who are I.V.I, spreading this gospel of the truth throughout the whole household, wherever you might be around the world. But Passover is something very important. So here it is. We're going to actually go into prayer, but we actually going to make sure all our brothers and sisters have proper pen, paper, phone fully charged, turned down. Make sure you have no distractions, brothers and sisters. Make sure you take note, write down everything that is going to be discussed tonight. Right now it is 6:15, and I know the times are different from many of you around the world. So I won't hold anyone else much longer, and we will go into prayer. Almighty Father, my Father, Hamashiach, I give thanks unto you and to the brothers and the sisters who are therefore coming back, return unto you, allowing your word to be instilled in their hearts, inviting them to be the walking journey by your decrees and your commands. May every brother and sister who catch this live stream or after stream therefore see the importance of what you are saying through this body, because here it is, Father, I am only a vessel being used by you, learning as I learn with my brothers and sisters who are also in obedience to you. And I thank them for therefore being a part of I.V.I, Intelligent Voices, Israelites. No more so-called this or so-called that. This is for all colors and all creeds. For anyone that can hear, that has an ear to hear what the Spirit is saying. This is for your awareness, and this is for your good stewardship towards the grace of Yah. Hamashiach in Hebrew means Yeshua. And we give all of our thanks unto our brothers. And we thank you, Father, for continuing this wonderful grace and this wonderful time spent learning, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding of your blueprint, which is the Hebrew Bible. We thank you so much for hearing our prayer and understanding that we are your children. Shalom. Amen. All right. Many times we hear brothers and sisters, they talk about the Passover. And you may have heard many have took the unleavened bread. But tonight, brothers and sisters, I'm here to confirm that anyone, and this is for those who are inadvertently didn't know, this is basically allowing you to know that there can never, ever be a Passover without the proper prescription of ingredients. Meaning that therefore there was protocols. When we look at the priests back in the days of Aaron and Moses, we see that there was a decree given to them. And therefore, Moses was the mediator between Yah and the people. We see that Moses had to instruct many of them on the protocols or the ingredients of many situations, not just on the Passover. So here it is. We're going to look at the Feast of Passover. We're going to look at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Booths. Many of y'all have never heard of this. I mean, most of you who are I.V.I have, but here it is. Tonight is going to be now a re-emerge, because here it is. Y'all want us to understand what we are doing so our brothers and sisters can know why we do what we do each year, celebrating our festivals, not of man, but of Yahuah, and Feast of Dedications. So we're going to go over the calendar. As we know, in our archive video, brothers and sisters, we have did what constitute a day. So for many of y'all who are new, probably checking it out, look for that in our archive video, because this is going to let you know exactly. Yah never did say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. He only counted in days. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and so on and so on. So now, we must look at the proper ingredients for the coming Passover. Because as we know, man goes by a 365-day calendar. We go by 360 because Yah says, I am complete. Okay. And we also did a video on that, explaining the leap days on the calendar. So with that said, brothers and sisters, I want everybody to actually have everything working for your notes or whatever you might put your notes in, because you're going to need to really go over this, maybe even after this video, brothers and sisters, again. Because here it is. This is going to allow you to understand what Aaron, what his sons were ordained to do, as it is for us, brothers and sisters, who are ordained to do in the spirit of Yah, by having wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Because here it is. He says he wants us perfect. He don't want us imperfect. So that means he wants us to understand. He wants us to know. He wants us also to be patient. Because here it is. He's gravitating towards us with grace. Because here it is. It's not for everybody, but it's only for the few, which is the remnant. So this is why this had to be explained tonight. So now when we look at before we go into the calendar, let's go into the ingredients for this, so we can actually see what every brother and sister must be actually praying for. Because here it is. This is going to actually propel you higher for the following next year. Because here it is. This understanding you're going to have. This is going to be a part of your conscious mind now. This is where you're going to actually understand from your heart to know that these decrees have never ever went anyway, in nowhere. Even when the church folks who, you know, built the brick and mortar said that therefore all you need is a baptism tub, or all you need to do is come to church on Sunday. Okay. So now we're going to fix a lot of this up so we can actually allow the brothers and sisters to see the power that is on hold until you actually have an understanding of this wisdom and knowledge, brothers and sisters. So now with that said, I'm gonna be using the big book. So we're going into Leviticus, because this is the ingredients for your Passover, ingredients for your unleavened bread. Now, many brothers and sisters haven't told you about these ingredients. Maybe that because Father haven't released it to them yet. But now it's made known, because here it is. Yah is releasing this through I.V.I, Intelligent Voices, Israelites. Shalom, shalom to all our brothers and sisters that are attending. And therefore, we thank you for tuning in and grabbing a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you like to therefore sit back and chill and therefore take your notes for this study. All right, so let's look at Leviticus chapter 16, because our Father, your Father, shows us something here. So we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 16. Now, you cannot have a Passover unleavened bread without this. It is ingredients also in the mix. So let's, this is why it's so important that brothers and sisters come, and here it is, feed, because here it is. We're going to take this right back out through your channel, through your portals, and to your family, to your friends, to your co-workers, to your neighbors, right? To those who are willing in the spirit. You will feel their spirit to know that they are willing to obey Yah. And you will feel spirits that therefore is not ready. So here it is. We're talking about the ready, okay? Those who are basically in thirst for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the kingdom that is at hand from my Father. So now, let's look. And many of you probably say, wow, I've been through this here before. I have read this before, but I never did understand that. But here it is. When we slow down, we can understand a lot of things, right? So now, looking at Leviticus chapter 16, 1 through 6, what do we see, brothers and sisters? It clearly says, after the death of Aaron's two sons, who died when they encroached on the Almighty One's presence, the Almighty One spoke to Moses, watch this, and said to him, then I say Moses was the mediator, right? Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come whenever he pleases into the inner sanctuary. Now, remember, in the time of Moses, they built the tent of meetings, and most of this was in the desert. So he says, inside the veil, in front of the cover on the ark, let not he die, for I reveal myself in a cloud above the ark's cover. Only in this way may Aaron enter here it is, sanctuary. Now today our inner sanctuary is our spirit of Yahweh, because now anyone who believes in the Son now have been baptized by the Spirit. Back in this time, this was the sanctuary of the tabernacle. Here it is, the tent of meetings. But now we can see how the transformation has become more powerful now in Hamashiach. So only in this way may Aaron enter the inner sanctuary. He shall bring a bull of the herd for purification offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall wear the sacred linen tunic with the linen pants underneath. Gird himself with the linen sash. This is the thing that go across the waist. And put on a linen turban, which is the mishi. But since these vestments are sacred, watch this, he shall not put them on until he has first bathed his body in water. So now what do we see, brothers and sisters? one must be cleansed. That means cleansed in a conscious state, cleansed in a body state, cleansed in a spiritual state. Because now here it is. We know now the spirit is alive in anyone who believes in Yeshua. But now we're seeing Day of Atonement means a lot. Because here it is. It is talking about you coming to a place in time with yourself in Yah, knowing that this is the time to get life right for yourself. Or here it is, to encourage others. Because here it is, you are now a light in Yah, and you're reflecting that light. So now here it is, he shall not put them on until he has first bathed his body in water. From the Israelite community, he shall receive 2 male goats, watch this, for a purification offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Aaron shall offer the bull as his purification offering to make atonement. Watch this, not for the community. He says for himself. So now it is every brother and sister that therefore have been chosen to therefore be used by Yah had to really be cleansed. That means no more blemishes, no more partiality. That means now your Passover is fulfilled in the spirit of Yahweh, because he is the Lamb and he is the one and only Savior who therefore saves us, who is the remnant, and also here it is, of Judah of the 144,000. So now what we see, one must be cleansed for himself and for his what? His household. So now this is decreed for a woman. This is decreed for a man. Anyone who therefore is the head of the household, or pretty much like, in charge, is the one that therefore, if chosen by Yah, have to be completely cleansed. That means here it is. Your Passover is in you. And here it is. Your unleavened bread is in you. Only thing that has been missing from humanity and most of the people who are lost is the understanding of the fact of how the Passover is to be served and how the Passover and unleavened bread is to be had. Because here it is. It must have a wisdom, knowledge, and understanding precept. Because here it is. It comes from the Bible, allowing us to, any one of us, meaning those who are being chosen or returning back unto Yah, have to have an atonement upon them, on the spirit, and upon the body, and also upon the conscience. That means the person have to be aware of what's going on, right? And that means here it is. It's not like you hear when people mention Passover, something quick and easy and just done. No, it's much deeper than just cooking. It comes with now the ingredients to the Passover and also ingredients to your unleavened bread, starting with you first. Laying an atonement on yourself. So now here it is. Yah put this atonement on those brothers and sisters. And here it is. He clearly says, first bathe his body in water. And then in verse 6, Aaron shall offer the bull, back in the days with animals, as a purification offering to make atonement for himself and also for his household. Because the man is the head of the house. If there's a man in there, that man is the head of his household. Now, many sisters and brothers, here it is, see many sisters that don't have a husband or live-in boyfriend that matters, or anyone that is caring enough to therefore rule with fairness and understand that this came by the design of Yah, who therefore have called in Passover, unleavened bread, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Booths, Feast of Dedication in that person. And here it is. Some people are walking just with the Passover and unleavened bread, but they're not walking with weeks. They're not walking with booths, and they're not walking with dedication. Okay? They're treating it like one of the man-made holidays, Christmas, Easter. There's something to do. It's so far from that, brothers and sisters. So now here it is. You are seeing right for your eyes. One have to have atonement on themselves, have to be cleansed, right? And it's not like the cleanse that we see with the churches talking about baptism, in water submersion. We are talking about spiritual eternal life baptism. Because here it is, it comes by an atonement by the spirit of Hamashiach Yah, our Father. Now, as we see here in Leviticus chapter 16, one must be what? Have atonement on themselves. That means no blemish and no partiality. And here it is, you have to have the complete ingredients in you. And here it is, this is the way brothers and sisters going to get this ingredients. Because now here it is, go to Leviticus chapter 9. And our Passover is coming up pretty soon, and our unleavened. So brothers and sisters, you know, you all have our calendars or calendars. And here it is, you know that therefore the days, please go out and teach and reach those who need to understand this. Friends, brothers, cousins, who knows, whoever has an ear to hear what the Spirit is saying, because this is not by force, this is about choice. So now when we look here, brothers, in chapter 9 and sisters, watch what stands out to us in verse 22. Because when we get to verse 22, Aaron, in verse 22 through 24, Aaron then raised his hands over the people, see this? And blessed them. When he came down from offering the purification offering, the burnt offering, and the communion offering, he says, Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meetings. Watch this. On coming out, they blessed the people. Then, watch this, the glory of the Almighty appeared to all the people. See, this is what I said earlier. Every brother and sister is not going to get called in right away. Because here it is, Yah says, I am working on every person that belongs to the kingdom and outside of the kingdom, because they are the 1/3, who therefore merges with the 144,000. So now here it is, understanding the Passover that's coming and understanding the unleavened bread that is coming. Brothers and sisters must have the true ingredients, keeping themselves without blemish and keeping themselves without partiality. Because here it is, we just seen atonement means to cleanse. Now we're seeing by being cleansed, as we continue from that, we're seeing that Aaron then raised his hands over the people, blessed them when he came down from offering the purification offering. So now that's the backstory of actually understanding what Aaron did for atonement and how it continued on to allow us to see the change that had to be manifested. Because here it is. This was the lamb that was slain, okay? And we know later on, but here it is. Everyone had a conscious mind of Father's laws and decrees, was already partaking of the lamb before he even came later down the road in generations. Hamashiach. So now what we see, brothers and sisters, we are seeing that one must start to understand that cleansing and then therefore coming into the glory of Yah is showing that Aaron had to understand this. And here it is, we see that Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting. So now here it is, back in the day, like I said, they had to go to the tent of meeting. They had to go out, and here it is, and erect the sanctuary, the veil, as we have read. And therefore, they had to serve the people. And the people served the priests, bringing their burnt offerings, votive offerings, and oblations, and many other things. So now here it is, to the glory of Yah, because of knowing the ingredients must be in each Passover, unleavened bread, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Booths, and Feast of Dedication, okay? In the subject, meaning you, brothers and sisters, and everyone that you teach this to. This had to be decreed, because here it is, it had to be understood why we're looking at this. Because here it is, it's been missing, but now here it is, it's not missing anymore. It was lost, but now it's found by us, right? Because Yah has decreed it. So now what we see, he says, fire came forth. Watch this. In verse 24, Leviticus chapter 9, he says, then the glory, no, go to verse 24. Fire came forth from the Almighty's presence. Watch this. Which it wasn't fire, everybody. It was light. So watch this. He says, the presence and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. Seeing this, all the people shouted with joy and fell in homage. So now what we see, fire, okay, showing a demonstration. And then we also see cloud, which is a form of white, because if a cloud, when you look at a cloud, it's white. So now we knowing that here it is, the presence and the approval was before the people. And here it is, we seen the power, what happened. And here it is, the people seeing what happened. And here it is, we see that was a revelation of Yahuah. And we knowing that here it is, Aaron, as we had started out in Leviticus chapter 16, everybody, 1 through 6. We see that atonement have to be on a subject first. You have to be cleansed. That means here it is, in order to go forth into the glory, here it is, you're going to come out. If you come in right, you're going to come out right. Just like they did. They went in right and they came out better than right. Because here it is, they was able to bless all of the brethren and sisters for what Yah had downloaded upon them. So now we see clearly why we had to look at Leviticus chapter 9, 22 through 24. Because he clearly says, Moses in verse 23, and Aaron went into, see that? Now we have the temple of Yeshua, because anyone who believes in the Son have received the Spirit. So now your body becomes a temple or a sanctuary or a tent of meetings, so to speak. And here it is, you're now giving atonement on top of that, because here it is, you came when you heard, and here it is, you didn't run away from Yah, because he said, anyone who is ashamed of me, so shall I be ashamed of in my Father's house. Okay, so keep that in mind. So now we see that the people seeing these, all the people shouted with what? Joy. So here it is, they was glad to learn. They was glad to understand. And it was glad that Moses was chosen actually to therefore give the service to them from Hamashiach. Same as we do here at I.V.I. and many of our brothers and sisters around the globe. And we love to shout out many of our brothers and sisters, because here it is, many of us are doing the greatest work, because here it is, Yah is in us, decreed us to do this work, and we have decreed it, we will, in submission and obedience. So now, let's look at Leviticus chapter 5. And when we look at Leviticus chapter 5, it gives us the measurements. These are the measurements to your Passover ingredients and your unleavened bread ingredients. Because here it is, as we said, this will help you therefore explode with so much understanding of when you go back to look and read this again. Because now you can see why it crossed over or had 4 leap years over centuries and generations, and then finally getting down to us with Hamashiach basically being the Passover lamb. Now we are seeing what the prescriptions was in the old times, but we are also, dissecting to see exactly what Father has shown your brother Yahweh Yah to show you, to allow you to know that each Passover brothers and sisters have done in unleavened bread. Most of them have done it not on even the proper days, and haven't even tried to actually meet these decrees by Hamashiach, even when they have heard them. Because many brothers and sisters are so fond of Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, Independence Day, and so on and so on. But this is why we say we're intelligent voices, Israelites, set apart. So here it is. We're not with the crowd. We are only with the few. So now here it is. We're showing our true brothers and sisters who truly want the kingdom of the Most High when they pass from this earth to go to the next. The truth, to set them free and keep them free, right? Because here it is. This is why Passover is coming up and why we are to have a remembrance of it, as well as the unleavened bread. So now, here in chapter 5, 1 through 6, he says, if a person either having seen or come to know something, watch this, does wrong by refusing as a witness under oath to give information, that individual shall bear the penalty. Or if someone without being aware of it, just like most of our brothers and sisters not aware of the Passover and the unleavened bread, he says that individual shall bear the penalty. Or if someone without being aware of it touches any unclean thing, such as the carcass of an unclean wild animal or unclean domestic animal or an unclean swarming creatures, and is unclean and will be unclean and guilty. Or if someone without being aware of it touches some human uncleanness, whatever kind of uncleanness this may be, watch this, and then subjectively becomes aware of a guilt, see this, or if someone without being aware of it rashly utters an oath with bad or good, here it is, intent. We got many brothers and sisters say, well, I just celebrate Christmas because it's for the kids. Oh, I just do Easter and go to church because it's for my mama or my grandmama. So now here it is. When someone is guilty in regards to any of these matters, that person shall confess. See that? This is how you get to atonement. Because here it is. These are the ingredients to the Passover unleavened bread. Because he says, when someone is guilty, watch this, in regard to any of these matters, that person shall confess the wrong committed and make a reparation to the Almighty One for the wrong committed. See that? So now, brothers and sisters, we see many brothers and sisters are not basically, here it is, coming forth with any of their wrongs or confessing to Yah about nothing. Because here it is, they don't even recall that they supposed to do this. Ain't that funny? When they say they go to church, they're Christians, they're Latter-day Saints, they're many other things. How could you not take this decree serious? Because here it is. Yah says, first of all, in order for anyone to celebrate or have my Passover or unleavened bread, whether Israelite or Gentile or heathen, they have to come to the regulation of understanding that one must be without blemish and one must be without partiality in the heart, in the spirit, or in your conscious mind. People are having battles with their minds these days. You know, people walking down the street talking to what? So here it is. They are talking to something, but here it is. A lot of people say talking to what? Because I don't see nothing. But there is something there. But here it is. Those people are caught up in bondage. They don't care about Passover. They don't care about unleavened bread. They're completely seven demon gone. So now here it is. We see that clearly for us brothers and sisters who are the small fruit, who are the remnant, here it is. These decrees are getting us prepped ready. Why? Because Yah knows a time is coming. We know a time is coming. And here it is. We're not following the crowd. We're following after Yahweh. Because here it is, Yah is the main authority to all of us. And here it is, even those who don't want to listen, they'll find out later. He's still in control of you. And here it is, if you don't get this ingredients right, everything and all things will be actually, here it is, judged, and Yah, the Father, Yahuah, the Father, will do the judge or judging. So now, getting back here to this lesson, clearly in 5, and as we have read all the way to 6, he says, make reparations to the Almighty One. Now, we got a lot of brothers looking for reparations from the world. And here it is, they ain't looking to give reparations out. So now here it is, in order to have a proper Passover and unleavened bread, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Booths, Feast of Dedication in you, one first had to be without no blemishes. Period. We just saw what Aaron did, right? And that means one must be clean. No partiality. Can't be a woman monger. You can't be out there doing all these negative things that therefore will therefore set you back. Basically from the kingdom of the Most High. Because here it is. He says, I decree my will in you that hears me, follows me, serves me. Because I am, he says. And one must come back as a child and be raised all over again, as we have, I.V.I. So now what we see, he says, to make reparation. How many brothers and sisters do you see out here really trying their hardest to serve the Most High? Not Lord, not God, not Jesus, not Moak, not what's the other name here? Moak and the reptilian goddess and many other people are worshiping nowadays, and many other different statues and different other type of channeling and so on and so on, right? So Yah says, here it is. You must make reparations to me for the wrong committed. Because here it is. Then we just read, one must confess. Because here it is. If there's no confessing from the heart, how could it be real in the head? Because here it is. In order for it to be real in the heart, you have to be without blemish, without partiality. You got to understand why this Passover in every year must be kept. Unleavened bread must be kept. All of the statutes and decrees must be kept. Go to Leviticus chapter 4, 1 through 3. Because now when we have our brothers and sisters, such as you all are here at I.V.I, we are here it is in communion or in fellowship with each other. And that means here it is, we don't give each other bad advice. And that means here it is, we network, and here it is, we reach out to our brothers and sisters, and we also make sure that everyone is doing fine to the best of the abilities of Yah, his decree. So that means here it is, we're constantly always checking on our brothers and sisters. We don't just leave you. When you come to I.V.I, you become a family member. You become part of something that is legit. And here it is, it's something that's going to guarantee your life. Because here it is, Yah says, I give eternal life to the believer. And this is for all decrees. So now what we see, brothers and sisters, we see clearly in 4. Let's go to 4. 1 through 3, Leviticus. And when we get here, 1 through 4, the Almighty said to Moses, watch this, tell the Israelites. Israelites means the so-called African-American, so-called Russian, so-called anything. He says, tell the Israelites, when a person, watch this, y'all, when a person inadvertently, we're going to look that word up so you can understand why it's in here. He says inadvertently does wrong, watch this, by violating anyone, watch this, anyone. Remember Exodus chapter 20. Many of y'all know that thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not this, right? But many brothers are still breaking those commandments, right? Sisters as well. Shalom. And the Almighty said to Moses, tell the Israelites, watch this, when a person inadvertently does wrong by violating anyone of the Almighty One prohibits, if it is the anointed priest who does wrong and therefore makes the people guilty, see this? He shall offer to the Almighty One, watch this, an unblemished bull of the herd as a purification offering for the wrong he committed. Why? Bringing, watch this. So he says, for the wrong that have been committed. And I was about to read verse 4, but it's 1 through 3. So now here it is. One must what? Be purified. That means your heart, brothers and sisters. Your spirit, brothers and sisters. Your conscious mind, brothers and sisters. The way that you come at things, the way that you do things, have to now be looked at, analyzed, and therefore structured. Because here it is. Yah says purification. This is about your purification. Basically, he says nothing comes into the kingdom unpure. Because here it is. You must be pure as I am pure. Right? Y'all know the scriptures. And now as we see, if it is the anointed priest. Now we done heard the Catholics going through a whole avalanche of problems with, raping children, doing a bunch of other stuff, right? And here it is. Not all of them are bad, but then here it is. The majority is. But here it is. We done heard that on the news. We done seen things like this, around the world. And we have seen that many brothers and sisters see that when it comes to the church, that many brothers and sisters say, I can't trust the church because all they want is your money. That is the truth, because it's a prosperity gospel. It's not nothing about the Passover or the unleavened bread, understanding the ingredients for your eternal life. It's just about giving them some money and therefore following them and coming, being a congregation. And here it is. It becomes sinful, and then it becomes untasteful later, where people are ashamed that they even participated in most of these churches. As we can look around now, most of them are just sitting brick and mortar, taking up space, right? So now here it is. This is why we're having this conversation, brothers and sisters, tonight, because here it is. Y'all want you to understand the true meaning of this Passover that's coming. And the true meaning of unleavened bread that you're supposed to be getting prepared for, right? So now it is, hopefully for brothers and sisters that who haven't made themselves right yet, when you take this gospel of this truth, of this Passover ingredients and unleavened bread ingredients, as well as the rest of the feasts ingredients, therefore they will come around if their ears are open to hear what the Spirit is saying through you, brother or sister. So now here it is. We're basically saying completely, right? In 1 through 3, purification and also being anointed. Purification and also being anointed. That means your Passover have to be what? Purification. And here it is, also have to be anointed. And in order to anoint your Passover and your unleavened bread, brothers and sisters, you got to reach deeper inside of yourself now to realize, is your Passover without blemish? Because as we know, nothing with a blemish could be actually given as to Yah. Because here it is, if he didn't decree it, he don't want it. He want it fit. The way he wants it is the way that he instructed all brothers and sisters to do. But most brothers and sisters don't do. They don't celebrate the Passover. They don't celebrate unleavened bread. They like Easter bunnies. They like Christmas Santa Clauses. They like birthdays. They like, the turkey and the Thanksgiving. They like all of these little holidays, spend up all their money, and therefore then look and be mad at the man that sold it to you. But here it is. It's in your belly now, and ain't nothing you can do about it. But if one came over now to the truth, of understanding what is the decree of Passover and unleavened bread, as you're starting to see, it's sinking in, brothers and sisters, to let you see that one must at all times keep yourself in atonement, cleansed. That's just the start. But before that, it's the confession, then the start. So now let's look at Leviticus chapter 16. Go to Leviticus chapter 16 and look at verse 29 and 31 with me. 29 and 31. Now, many brothers and sisters also say they fast and, they want to cleanse themselves out. They think that is cleansing, which is okay when you done got to the basics, which are what we're telling you now. Here it is that one must confess and then one must come into atonement. And that means that atonement have to happen from either Yahweh himself or for a brother or sister that he sends to you to anoint you clean. Because now you become part of a communion, which is in communion with Yah and your family members, who are your true family members, who are Israelites. This is also what you would find out. Because here it is, you will look forward to Passover. You'll look forward to unleavened bread. And here it is, you will look forward to all of the feasts that are decreed by Hamashiach. Because here it is, it's in your heart, it's in your head. And here it is, you're going to do exactly what you hear. And here it is, whatever you hear goes here. And then it projects an action, cause and effect. So now, brothers and sisters, when we look here and see in Leviticus, and now in verse 29, this shall be a what? He says, an everlasting statute. That means something without end, brothers and sisters. This is why most brothers and sisters who went to church said, oh, well, I don't got to follow none of that no more. I ain't under the old law. I'm under the New Testament. With not understanding that this whole book is one book, not broken into two books, like man has decreed it to you, right? Because we know of that of the scrolls. So now he says, this shall be an everlasting statute for you. That means your Passover, your unleavened bread, your Feast of Weeks, your books, your dedication. He says, on the 10th day of the 7th month. Now, many brothers and sisters count like this: January, February, March, April, May, June, July. They would say July, which would be completely wrong and completely out of date, because that wouldn't be close enough to Yah's calendar. So when we use Yah's calendar, we say April is first, right? Which is. So it's April, May, June, July, August, September, October, the 7th month. So now you're understanding, and anyone that need a calendar, please email us. We will get you a calendar so that way you can follow it and therefore do your feasts each year accordingly. So, but you have to email us, or we just don't know you need one. So now watch this. He says, for you, on the 10th day of the 7th month, every one of you, whether a Israelite native or a resident, here it is, outsider, shall humble yourself and shall do what? No work. He says you shall humble yourself and do no work. And he says, for on this day, watch this again, then we just talk about atonement. On this day, atonement is made for you. Okay? This is what we're saying here at I.V.I, brothers and sisters. Some of y'all might be like, huh? But here it is. This is why you have to rewind this probably a couple times for some. But here it is for the sharp seekers. Y'all already catching exactly what y'all is saying and showing in these puzzle pieces of precepts. So now he says, for on this day, atonement is made for you. That means here it is. to make you what? Clean. This is what we're doing here. This is why Yah had brought this whole segment up tonight. Because he had been watching many do the Passover and unleavened bread. And here it is. They have skipped over days and have misused the calendar because they have used the right calendar. Then we just see bad and wrong inadvertently. Okay. To be inadvertently. Okay. That means to not know, not fully know something. Okay. And we're going to look that word up though later on. And he says, to make you clean of all your sins, you will be cleansed before the Almighty One. Watch this, right? He says, it shall be a Sabbath. Now, what is a Sabbath? Of complete rest for you, on which you must what? He didn't say you might or you want you when you want to. He says you must humble yourselves. An everlasting statue right there, right? So this is clear that fasting comes into the plan with atonement, and atonement comes into the plan before, which is confess. Because confession have to be first in the heart and therefore in the mind to know one is a sinner or therefore is walking with blemish or is walking with partiality or is not keeping the decrees that have been decreed from the time on to the time now. And we don't see brothers and sisters doing it this way. You might hear a Christian say, oh, I fast today. But when you ask them the way of how they fast, it will be so far from what I just read. And here it is. They completely go out there and tell everybody they fast. And when that is, Yah says you are not to tell people when you're fasting. Because here it is. We just seen that this is an atonement. Why do you have to tell someone you're clean when they can see that you're getting clean? If you're truly getting clean, brothers and sisters. Okay? Because here it is. Yah is not playing a game. And here it is. Only people that is thinking that they're playing a game is those who are outside of covenant. So now he says clearly, getting back here, he says, it shall be a Sabbath. Now, Sabbath means Saturday. Like I started out today, Yah never went by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He went by day 1, day 2. So now day 7 would be what? Saturday, which would be a Sabbath. Everybody say, oh, they Christians or Protestants, they are saying, oh, I'm going to church on Sunday. But then when Saturday comes, they do nothing for it. They don't rest. They don't take off work. They just do whatever they did Friday, Thursday, and Wednesday. But Sunday, they hold that to their pastor, who church they go to. Oh, I got to be at church Sunday. But here it is. This is so far from the truth that this type of knowledge and understanding only leads to destruction. But this wisdom that we give here at I.V.I, which you've seen with your own eyes, comes from my Father, your Father, Hamashiach. Now, clearly, as we now have seen in verse 31, look at verse 32, same chapter. He says, now this atonement is to be made, watch this, he didn't say by yourself, he didn't say by your auntie, he didn't say by your neighbor, someone who just doing nothing. He said, no, by your what? Priest, who has been anointed, see that? And ordained to the priesthood. He says to the priesthood. Now, anyone that has an ear to hear what Yahuah is saying has been received. And now you should know that Hamashiach is our high priest. So now here it is. To the priesthood in succession to his what? Male parent. He shall wear the linen garment and the sacred vestments and purge the most sacred parts. See that? Purge. That means any partiality of you, brother or sister, who do not keep Passover or unleavened bread or any of the feasts. This is allowing you to see that this sin alone holds you back from even being put your name back into the Lamb's book of eternal life. And that means any priest, servant of the priest, such as your brother Yahweh Yah is a messenger. Therefore, have to understand that you must, he says, sacred. He said, purge the most sacred part. The most sacred part will be your heart, your mind, and the blood that pumps through your body, brothers and sisters. He says, as well as the tent of meeting and the altar, he shall also make an atonement for the priests, watch this, and all of the people of the assembly, that means Israelites. And then we see in verse 34, this then shall be an everlasting. He didn't say just tomorrow, just next month. He said, this should be an everlasting statute for you. Once a year, atonement shall be made on behalf of what? The Israelites for all their what? Sins. So now this is where the church folks got things confused by thinking the baptism tub removes the sins. It is so far from the truth now, right? Because now we're seeing that many brothers and sisters who have said they're doing Passover, keeping unleavened bread, have you checked or self-checked your ingredients to see if they're getting spoiled? Or is there therefore losing its taste to be trampled under the foot? Or is you therefore in a delusion to not realize that this is a call for higher understanding to give one to fulfillment of a Passover and unleavened bread and the keeping of all the other feasts that are commanded and willed it by Yah unto you and I. So now what we see, brothers and sisters, this then shall be an everlasting statute. He says, not just for me, for you too. Once a year. Once a year. And then he says, shall be made on the behalf of the Israelites. That means brothers individually have to come to this process. In order to have a real feast of Passover and a real feast of unleavened bread and a real feast of weeks and a real feast of books and a real feast of dedication, one must be in keeping with this every year because it shows a commitment, which we talked about, a communion, fellowshipping, and therefore becoming family. Therefore, brothers see their brothers, sisters see their sister. And that means here it is, we're only speaking to our brothers and our sisters for the proper time, because here it is, the time will come for those who didn't catch up to get caught up. If they truly love their lives, they will get caught up. Because here it is, Yah says, I'm going to turn up the degrees on earth, and it's going to actually, here it is, cause a lot of people to be irritated by a system that is basically crashing and burning right before your eyes. Fallen Babylon, okay? So now here it is. We know, us Israelites, intelligent voices Israelites, we know that Father have given us these decrees because here it is, everything we can say is right here and they have proper understanding. So now watch this. Now as we have gotten down here to 34, let's go to Leviticus chapter 19. And this is going to fix some of those errors that many brothers might have blemishes or might, here it is, they know when they have done something wrong or been bad, or here it is, or not follow Yah all the way, here it is, or came following and then dropped off. But here it is, we know brothers come and go as well as sisters. But here it is, Yah says, in order for you to have Passover with me, as my 12 disciples sat with me, and now that I made my spirit available to all who can hear me and understand me, then one must realize this Passover is basically to remove unblemishedness from you. and to receive you into the unleavened bread as a remembrance for you to keep throughout the generations and every year, as we just seen here, right? So now look at this here in chapter 19 of Leviticus, 1 through 4. The Almighty said to Moses, watch this, speak to the whole Israelite community and tell them. So when he said speak to the whole Israelite community, he wasn't talking about the ones that wasn't following. He was talking about the ones that were following, that were communion, that were doing the decrees, the statutes, the ordinance that he gave. So he says, speak to the whole Israelite community and tell them. He says, be set apart. In your book, it might say it's holy. But here it is. We know that that is a pagan word. So here it is. Be set apart. From what, brother Israel Yah? From all of your no ingredients of Passover and unleavened bread. He says, be set apart, for I, the Almighty, your Yahuwah, am set apart. Each of you, your mother and your male parent, keep my Sabbaths, he says. I, the Almighty One, am your Yahuwah, right? So now here it is. He says, do not turn aside to idols. Don't we see brothers and sisters got crosses on their neck, cross tattoos, all kind of different type of idols that they worship and like and put on their bodies and things like that. That's blemish. How could that? I mean, you might have got it done a long time ago, but here it is. It's still matching your blemish because you're not following the decrees of Yah. He says, nor make molten gods for yourselves. So this is a decree. I, the Almighty, am your Yahuwah, he says. So do not turn aside to idols. So now, brothers and sisters, we know idols are anything that man or woman worship, either by celebrity or here it is, movie stars, or here it is, even sometimes people in their family, and so on and so on. But here it is. Yah says all of that is idolatry. That's blemish. That's partiality. Anyone that have favoritism for this, here it is a sinner and haven't been atoned. So that means here it is, brothers and sisters have confessed, but here it is, the confession wasn't real because here it is, what they said out their mouth, they didn't do. So now here it is. That brings on a whole nother set of another conversation right there. So now as we see this, brothers and sisters, go to Leviticus chapter 20. Oh yes, we're going to be hanging out in Leviticus for a minute, all the way to the end before we get to the calendar and one or two of these key words. So now here in Leviticus chapter 21 through 9, Yah want us to understand that anyone that doesn't keep the Passover or unleavened bread or any of his instructed decrees, commandments, one is living as a heathen or a Gentile. And a Gentile and a heathen will be also punished. And here it is. It is decreed by Yah that he will punish. Because here it is. He's trying to make sure everyone, not just us who are being called back, everyone realize that he is the Almighty of Almighties and he is alive spiritually and physically. Because here it is. Before Yeshua HaMashiach came, this was all a physical work. People had to bring animals in. They had to do certain things on certain days. And here it is. It was totally following by your conscious mind with your heart, listening to Yahuwah. But then he said, I'm going to send my son, who therefore has so much love for you. I have given up the world, which have went into ruins by the devil, for the sake of my son to come down and save you with compassion, to give you the precepts of understanding, wisdom, knowledge, understanding of Feast of Booths. And here it is, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Dedication, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and Passover, right? Because now here it is. It allows us all to now realize how lost we was once. But here it is. We're still out on the lookout for our brothers and sisters out there who we know Yah is sending us at, to therefore decree in them to come on home, come on back. Because here it is. The time is now. Because here it is. In a minute, many brothers and sisters is not going to have that time. And they're going to think they can just jump in like that. But it's so far from the truth. But now realize this takes work, preparations, okay? Just like the Feast of Passover, just like the Feast of Unleavened Bread. There's always a process in anything you do in life. There's a process. There's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. So here it is. Many brothers and sisters have done all of the celebrations wrong by celebrating what man told them to celebrate, Christmas and so on. And here it is. They have only became more and more blemished. Yah says, I want you without blemish in order to be my son or my daughters. You got to really listen to the messengers. You got to really go grab your Bible when you hear the word of Yah come out. Because he says, here it is. These are my words, not the person you looking at. It is my words. I am in that person. So now let's look. The Almighty said to Moses, again, tell the Israelites, anyone, whether an Israelite or a foreigner residing in Israel, who gives offsprings to Moloch. See this? This was the reptilian I was telling y'all about. He says, shall be put to death. See, that was the idols that they was worshiping. Okay? The serpent and many other deities. So he says, the people of the land shall stone that person. See that? Any brothers and sisters that are not trying to follow Yah, Yah says spiritually stone that person. That means here it is. You don't see them because they dead. We only see the living. So now here it is. This is why this have to be brought up, because when every time somebody is not serving the Passover or unleavened bread or the Feast of Week or booths or dedication, right, they bring on these various sins. And these sins are basically going to come and overtake you. Not at a moment that you think you prepared for it. It's going to come when you least expect it. Because these are penalties of various sins. And we know that man and woman who without Yah have sinned and study sinning. Because here it is, even lust for each other and many other things we see. So here it is. How could someone say they're going to my kingdom where my father is at of full righteousness with blemish, with no understanding of this Passover or unleavened bread, or this weeks, or the booths, or dedication? And when you ask them about it, they never heard of it. That means they are so far from this Bible, you just can't make this up, brothers and sisters. So now when we look here, let's get back. He says, the people of the land shall stone that person. I myself would turn against him or her and cut off the individual from among the people. For in the giving of offsprings to the Moloch, and he says, my sanctuary was defiled. See that? Because here it is. My sanctuary was defiled. That's going right back to the tent of meeting and also going to the person's body, spirit, and mindset. So now he says was defiled. And then he says, in my set apart name, everybody calls Jesus, Lord, and God, right? This is what everybody done heard for all their life, but don't know that changes can be made in your life, because he says, my name is Yahweh. Everyone is to be decreed under Yahweh. No Jesus, no Lord, no God, no Buddha, no Allah, no Muhammad, no none of that. It is under Yahweh. So now realize, he says, I myself will turn against that person, male or female, cut off the individual from among the people, for in the giving of offsprings to Moloch. See, we got to realize, brothers and sisters, we are offspring. Our ancestors, they broke our father's covenant. So now he made a new covenant with who? The offsprings. And as we see, many single parents, mothers, are basically giving their children over to Moloch, not knowing it inadvertently, some knowing overtly. Because here it is, they're knowing they're putting their children out there in the streets to be picked up by the streets because they feel like, oh, I can't raise them. I'm trying to do me. I'm trying to do my thing. But here it is, it's violating the Passover, the blood that you have in you from the lamb, making your blood contaminated. And that means, here it is, pushing you farther away out from the kingdom. So now realize, he says, many have been given their offsprings to Moloch, reptilians. If the person of the land condones the giving of offsprings to Moloch by failing to put the wrongdoer to death, I myself would turn against that individual and his or her family. See this? And I will cut off from their peoples both the wrongdoer and all who follow this person by prostituting themselves with Moloch. That means, here it is, the reptilian. And here it is, these are the ones that many refer to as the Illuminati and many other things. But here it is, we're talking about fallen angels, brothers and sisters, that therefore made babies and babies on babies. And here it is, has spread it out a whole population of Moacs. Because now, as we see, the world is going in complete chaos. Many people are just hooked on digital things that has no prosperity. Because here it is, they don't know keeping the Passover is a decree, and they don't know reading or coming towards Yah messengers, or here it is, servants, is decreed. And that means, here it is, Yah says only those who have an ear to hear what my spirit commands will come forth, will become part of a community that is a family, that therefore is Israelites. No more so-called anything. Okay, color don't exist. Because here it is, it's by the blood of the Lamb, who therefore gave us the Passover and the unleavened bread to keep. And here it is, the Feast of Weeks and the books to keep, and dedication to keep. And here it is, it's a small commitment, but here it is, it's with love that it is done, brothers and sisters. This is why we do it, because here it is, it's love, and here it is, it's righteous, and here it is, it's clean. You feel better, do better. And here it is, you'll be able to actually teach even better. And here it is, share better. Because here it is, this will be in you now. Understanding that this is what one must have in order to have a proper Passover or unleavened bread or anything. Your ingredients have to be in check. That means you have to check with yourself on a daily basis. I mean, now, most of us, we might do something wrong, and here it is, we know, okay, we went a little too far on that one, but here it is, we go into prayer and we ask Father for forgiveness. So that way, here it is, we remove all blemishes, because you don't want no blemishes, period. No partiality, period. So now when we look here, and we're seeing this in 1 through 9, continue. He says, verse 6, should anyone turn to ghosts, spirituals, spirits, and prostitute oneself with them, turn against that person and cut such one off from among the people. See this? Sanctify yourselves. See this? Then and be set apart, for I am the Almighty One, your Yahuah, am set apart. Be careful, therefore, watch this, to observe, watch this, my statutes. I, the Almighty One, make you what? Set apart. Set apart from what? brother Yahweh Yah, set apart from ignorance, joining in appeasing friends or family members for the sake of a lie, made to look like a truth, which means deception. And then ignorant meaning you just don't know. That means here it is. Like I said, you ask a brother or sister about boots, dedication, weeks, they may have no clue what you're talking about. You say Passover, oh, they heard that, but it's the wrong date and the wrong time. Then you say unleavened bread. They got that wrong too. They don't know when or where. So here it is. This have to be fixed. Because here it is. Brothers have to get it right and sisters have to get it right. Now, looking at verse 9, he says, anyone who curses their parents, watch this, shall be put to death. Didn't he say, I will remove you from your people until you wake up and come back to your senses and realize you need salvation? And you need to start keeping my feasts and obeying my decrees? So he says, anyone who curses their parents, that means in any way, not following after their advice, not obeying the advice, not trying to therefore make sure you are aiding and assisting your parents in the best way possible. Because here it is, Yah says, here it is, when you do this thing for your parents, you get back a reward. And slow dripping grace comes into the person. Because now here it is, you have a conscience. Most brothers and sisters don't have a conscience because they don't take care of their parents. They don't respect their mom or their dad. And here it is, they don't really respect anybody. Because here it is, when something have gone on so long, it become permanent. And that means here it is, that's when the 7 demons move into a person. Y'all done heard that scripture. After 1 leave, and then you go back wrong, and again, 7. You get 7. And that means no saving you. That means a brother or sister can talk to you till their head fall off. And you still ain't trying to get saved. But you wonder why all this misfortune, why all this things going on about me, over you. But here it is. It's your fault. And that's what gashing the teeth comes in at, which we have heard in scripture, right? Everybody got something to say. But here it is. I ain't trying to do the right thing because here it is. They think it is the bad thing. They think, oh, I can just do whatever I want and I'm still good. I've been baptized in water. My pastor laid his hand on me. And here it is. You don't understand why you sinned yesterday or the day after that day, but you right back on Sunday trying to pay your money and see if you're going to buy your way into some kingdom, because it definitely ain't mine, me and my Father Yahuah Yah. And that's what we tell all brothers and sisters to tell these Gentiles or heathens, because here it is, you're going to realize that they got 7 demons in them. They can't be saved. And we don't talk to dead people yet, okay? Because here it is, Yahuah already sent Yahshua to do that. When he the 3 days before he came back. Y'all know them scriptures. So now here it is, we're back again right here, helping brothers and sisters understand this feast of Passover and the feast of unleavened bread, which is coming up soon. And we're going to give you the proper dates and everything so y'all can get out there and get the stuff you need so you start either working on it. So now, brothers and sisters, make sure. Let's look at Leviticus 22. We're going to jump over 21. Look at verse 22, verse 3. Because once everything becomes well back with you, your feelings come back to you. This gives you now your knowledge. And now here it is. You don't have any lack anymore, like Hosea 4:6. You're realizing that this is a process, not an easy thing when you don't have salvation or grace. You got to realize that now that you have heard or hearing this, this is what you must share. Because here it is. This is the ingredients that's in your brother Israelite Yah and many of you. And it will be in many of others who you therefore show or therefore teach this to. Because here it is. Yah says this is for everyone who can hear what the Spirit is saying, right? So now in verse 3, he says, tell them, chapter 22, verse 3, Leviticus. He says, tell them. He didn't say be quiet. He says, don't say it sometime. Don't say, He said, no, tell them, if any one of you, watch this, or of your descendants, watch this, in any future generation, okay, I'm reading this slow, dares, watch this, dares, while he is in a state of uncleanness, to draw near to the sacred offering which the Israelites consecrate, here it is, or bless, unto the Almighty One, such a one shall be what? Cut off from my presence. I am the Almighty One. So he says, tell them, if any one of you, brothers, sisters, it don't matter how long you've been walking in the Israelite life, because here it is, once you stop doing the feasts and listening, that's when you're now being consumed by those 7 demons. Because here it is, then I say earlier, you can find people standing outside talking to themselves, right? Which people think they're talking to themselves, but they're very well having a conversation with spirit demons. And here it is, they're giving them commands to command those who won't listen to Yahweh, messengers or Yahweh himself, in conscience and in heart. So now he says, tell them, if any one of you, of your descendants in any future generation, okay? We're living in the last days. He says, while he is in a state of uncleanness, watch this, because here it is, brothers and sisters don't have an understanding that keeping Passover, keeping unleavened bread, and all of the feasts are important. And that means they are uncleansed and unclean. And that means they have blemishes and partialities. And that means, here it is, there is no life of eternal life for them if they don't make up their minds fast by hearing this segment tonight, to realize that all of your Passovers, all of your unleavened bread and weeks and booths and dedication have to actually now be under or ordained by Yah as it is being decreed for your ingredients now. So you can know you are part of the Passover, part of the unleavened bread, part of the Feast of Weeks, part of the Feast of Booths and dedication. Because here it is, the blood of Yahuwah, the Lamb that shed his life, his blood, to give unto all who can hear what the Spirit is saying. Because he says, unclean, a state of uncleanness, to draw near. If you try to draw near to a brother who is clean, there will be friction because you are not fully clean yet. Same thing for a sister. She will not therefore actually come any closer because knowing that person is not fully clean. So therefore, we cannot really socialize friends, or here it is, however they say, because we're looking for our family members. We ain't looking for a friend. We ain't looking for a neighbor. We're looking for family members who are basically casualties of war, man. And here it is, realizing that this is a state of uncleanness that our people are in. Birthday, Christmas, Easter, with a bunny rabbit and eggs. I mean, who made these things up? You already know. The world did, right? So now realize, going to now Leviticus chapter 23, 1 through 9. Watch this. This is basically allowing you to see why we're talking about Passover and unleavened bread and all of the feasts. Why we're giving you now, here it is, the ingredients. Because here it is, before you probably didn't have these ingredients. So Yah says, I have forgiven all because I didn't release it yet. But now here it is, I'm releasing this now for all to follow and understand why it was so important with Aaron and Moses now to start this thing as priesthood and his sons. Because here it is, later there was a Messiah who did come and therefore came back, who is Yahweh, have now decreed it also in us to therefore be set apart. Basically, nothing holy, but set apart. He says, the Almighty said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them, watch this, the following are the festivals, right, of the Almighty One, or the holidays, which you shall declare. Now, when you declare something, you're demanding it. Set apart days, separate from all the other days. These are my festivals, or my holidays. For 6 days, work may be done. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, brothers and sisters, every Sabbath is a Sabbath of complete rest. That means no shopping, no going to buy anything unless it is really needed. You cannot do without, or here it is, it will cause some type of stressful strain on you or your household. Then Yah says, go out and go get water. Go grab something to eat. Okay? Go take care of someone. Go minister to someone if you have to. Because here it is, it's complete rest. But it is given privileges by Yahweh. Because he says, the Sabbath of complete rest, a declared set-apart day from all the other days, which are 6. He said, you shall do no work. Not my words, my Father's words. You shall do no work on Saturday. You should buy nothing on Saturday if you don't have to. You shouldn't be out there doing anything but in complete rest. Because he says, the Almighty Sabbath, he says, you shall do no work. It is the Almighty Sabbath, wherever you but dwell, or wherever you live, brothers and sisters. And then he says, these are the holidays of the Almighty One, set apart days, which you shall declare at their proper time. Then I say many of the brothers and sisters are not celebrating Passover on the right proper time. Because here it is, a lot of brothers are getting confused, and sisters as well, because they're looking over there at the east, and then here it is looking at where they live here in the country and not realizing the days and times are different. So y'all already knew that. That's why he had to create the Hebrew calendar, so you can still keep up with that, even though you don't live in the land where you would actually keep it on the right days naturally. You've been driven out of the land, offsprings, been taken into the land of Moab. So now here it is. Watch this. He says, these are the holidays of the Almighty, set apart days, which you shall declare at their proper time. The Passover of the Almighty One falls on the what? 14th day of the first month. Now, many of you brothers and sisters who might be new, what is the first month? It's April. That's right, April. April is the first month of our Hebrew calendar, not March. That's the end. That's coming in with the new moons. So here it is. That will not fly. It have to be April because it is April. And here it is. Yah says the first month at evening twilight, that's what some books say, the 15th day of this month is the Almighty Feast of Unleavened Bread. So now you have the 14th and you have the 15th. Okay. And then he says, for 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Only unleavened bread. So now he says, clearly, he says, on the first of these days, okay, on the first of these days, that means the first day, which will most likely fall on a Sunday, he says, you will have a declared set apart day. You shall do no heavy work. On each of the 7 days, you shall offer an oblation to the Almighty One. Now we have Yahshua, who now has spiritually blessed us, who now all we have to do is use prayer. And our prayers is taken right up to the Father. Before, you had to go to the priest of the tender meetings, and then therefore they had to take your offering. He says, you shall offer an oblation to the Almighty One. Then on the 7th day, you will have a declared set apart day. You shall do no work. No work. So now in verse 9, the Almighty said to Moses, not Aaron saying to Moses, the Almighty said to Moses. These are decreed in the ear, brother, sister, because here it is. One must hear right in order to follow right any instruction. One must see right in order to do any instructions or process. So now we are seeing clearly in Leviticus chapter 23, 1 through 9. Let's look in the same chapter, verse 34 through 44. And when we get to 34, 44, brothers and sisters, we see the Feast of Booths. Now watch what the Father says. The Almighty said to Moses, here we go, tell the Israelites, right? The 15th day of this 7th month, remember we talked about this, it's not January starting with the first month, it's April because we're using the Hebrew calendar. So now we know April, May, June, July, August, September, October is the 7th month. It is the Almighty One's Feast of Booths. So that's when Feast of Booths is, brothers and sisters. As you will see, and he says, on the first day, a declared set apart day, you shall do no work. For 7 days you shall offer oblation to the Almighty One, or praise to the Almighty One. And on the 8th day, you will have a declared set apart day. You shall, here it is, and they say 8, but it's 7. So don't let them trick you up with an 8th day. There's no such thing as an 8th day. So on the 7th day, you shall have a declared what? Festival. And then he says, you shall offer an oblation to the Almighty One. It is the festival closing. You shall do no work. No work. These, therefore, are the festivals or the holidays, the Almighty, which you shall declare set apart days in order to, he says, in order to offer. Here it is. Now, as I have stated, many have went to the tent of meeting in the time of Moses and Aaron, but now we go directly to Yahweh in prayer. So now here it is. We go directly with our offering, which is in our prayer. And back then it was grain offerings. And here there's sacrifices and libations and prescriptions for each day. In addition to the Almighty Sabbath, watch this, your donations, your various votive offering, and the voluntary offering that you present to the Almighty. Now, this is where the church folks have went prosperity gospel, where here it is, every one of their members pays something, because here it is to become part of that church or building, so-called. And here it is, nothing is being given back, because here it is, this is a prosperity gospel. And many prosperity gospel pastors we done seen got shut down. We don't see them on TV as much. So now here it is. Yah has spoken frequencies to allow us to see why this is so important. Because here it is, Feast of Booths is important. Now, when we look here, he says, let me continue. He says now in verse 40, on the first day you shall gather fruit of the majestic trees, branches of palms, and here it is, leafy trees, valley willows. Then for a week, watch this, you shall make what? Merry or joyful before the Almighty, your Yahuah. You shall keep this feast of the Almighty One for one whole week. Watch this. In the year by perpetual, it is, statute throughout your generation. In the 7th month of the year, you shall keep it. In the 7th month of the year, you should keep it. Many brothers and sisters are not talking about this, keeping this, doing this, because as we have pointed out, this is to be throughout the generations, future generations as well. So that means here it is, this law have not been put, here it is, null and void. I mean, this is still something right now that is valid. So now when we look here at verse 42, you shall dwell, watch this, in booths for 7 days. Every native born Israelite shall dwell in booths. Then he say every native born Israelite. So that means here it is, this means the whole world, because Noah had 3 sons. And that means here it is, they had Israelites. And what went forth? Israelites. The decree of the feasts, right? And he says, you shall dwell in booths for 7 days. Every native born Israelite shall dwell in booths, that your descendants, that's me ancestors, may realize, watch this, that means here it is, they ain't dead, they can realize, may realize that when I led the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, I made them dwell, watch this, in booths. I, the Almighty, am your Yahuah, the Father. So now you just can't make this up, brothers and sisters. This means here it is, exactly what it says from the Hebrew Bible. And now here it is, as we have looked here, look at Leviticus chapter 25. And let's look at 9 through 22. Because now many of brothers have heard of the Jubilee. But here it is, not a lot of brothers and sisters have heard of Jubilee year, which consists of 7 times 7 is 49. So now here it is. This is back in the time where all the Israelites had to do this process in order for the blessing to be met. Now that Yeshua HaMashiach has come, have now cleansed the tainted blood of those who can hear, who have a spirit to can hear what the Spirit of Yahweh is saying, and come forth to be baptized by him. So now Jubilee year is very important. And here it is, have always been important even through all the accords, even with Abraham and many others, Isaac and many others, right? So now here it is, when we get here to 25 chapter, look at verse 9 through 22. Then on the 10th day of the 7th month, see that? He given another day of the 7th month, let the ram's horn sound on this, the day of atonement. The ram horn shall blast, shall resound throughout your land. That means here it is. Now this is coming from your heart, brothers and sisters. You shall treat this 50th year as sacred. Because after 49 comes a new moon, a new year, right? And he says, you shall proclaim liberty in the land for all of its inhabitants. Now, liberty means freedom, peace. It shall be a jubilee for you, when each of you shall return to your own property. Watch this. Each of you to your own family. This 50 year is your year of jubilee. You shall not sow, nor shall you reap the aftergrowth or pick the untrimmed vines, since this is the jubilee. It shall be sacred for you. You may only eat what the field yields of itself. So now, keep going. In this year of the Jubilee, then each of you shall return to your own property. Therefore, when you sell any land to your neighbor or buy any from your neighbor, do not deal unfairly with one another. On, here it is, the basis of the number of years since the last Jubilee, you shall what? Purchase the land from your neighbor. And so also on the basis of the number of the years of the harvest, that person shall sell it to you. When the years are many, the price shall be so much the more. When the years are few, the price shall be so much less. For it is really the number of harvest that the person sells you. See that? Do not deal unfairly with one another. Then, but stand in the obedience of your Yahuah. I am the Almighty One, your Yahuah. Observe my statutes and be careful, he says, to keep my ordinance, so that you will dwell securely in the land. The land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill and live there securely. Watch this. Didn't he just say liberty earlier? And if you say, what shall we eat in the 7th year? If we do not, watch this, sow or reap our crop, I will command such a blessing for you in the 6th year, that there will be crop enough for 3 years. And when you sow in the 8th year, you will still be eating the old crop, even into the 9th year, until the crop comes in. You will still be eating from the old crop. And then it says, completely. This was the and is the Jubilee, as Abraham and many others kept tilling the land, produce, as we have said with the church folks, with the prosperity gospel, you pay and pay, but you get nothing. But here it is with Yah, they tilled the land and therefore they yield, and they were able to take what they made to the, what they yield to the market and sell to neighbors or whoever. And this is how they therefore, the Israelites therefore utilize or the land among each other. And here it is. Before later on, all of this came about, where men have taken over farmership and taken over, bought up land and stole land. And here it is, and now making everybody, here it is, pay them. And they are not fair. And here it is, as we've seen in this precept, he says, be fair, treat no one unfairly. That means be righteous. That goes back to what we was talking about earlier about the ingredients. You got to make sure your ingredients is right, brothers and sisters, because otherwise your Passover won't taste right to you. Your unleavened bread won't taste right to you. Feast of Weeks, dedication, boots, none of that will actually feel right to you. Why? Because here it is. You're bringing in blemish, and that does not yield righteousness that way. So here it is. Yah is clearly saying we have to understand the Feast of Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and all his feasts, because here it is. He wants every Israelite born to understand them, so that way they can come out of her and quit serving all these holidays man have come up with. And here it is, serving a Moloch. And here it is, many other idols and deities. Santa Claus, he give you something if you're good. And you got kids actually out here trying to be good for Santa Claus so they can get it. But Yah says, be good to me and I will give it to you. Pray to me and I will give it to you. And here it is, you don't have to worry about me coming down no chimney or therefore sneaking in your house, putting something under a tree. I'm going to put it in your heart. How about that? And then therefore, I'm going to elevate your whole spirit and cleanse your whole blood inside of you. to make you now purified as I am pure, perfect. So now here it is. This is a process, brothers and sisters. This is not something that people just jump into, but here it is. They are needing to jump into, but here it is with time and patience. And just work yourself like a slow drip I.V. Now, looking at Leviticus chapter, as we see here in 25, 9 through 22, last precept will be Leviticus 26. And we're going to read 1 through 9. Because now that you understand that Feast of Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and all these other feasts are so important for you to know about and how to celebrate them, this will bring more, here it is, blessings upon you and anybody else that therefore is following after you or what you're doing. Because here it is, Yah says, I'm watching. And therefore, I'm making sure that only the best is pulled out of her, out of this furnace, out of this hell of fire, as we have seen in Revelation, the 1/3. And here it is, I will also put pressure on Judah, which therefore meaning that we will have to be here as well to see the world as it's falling. And those who are in it fall with it. And that's so depressing to me. And I know I speak volumes for many of my other brothers and sisters when they see this, because here it is, we want all of our brothers and sisters blessed, and therefore understand you must get dressed by Yah, because here it is, Yah is the one that's controlling everything. And here it is, one must allow his control in order to be blessed. So keep that in mind. Now here in chapter 26, let's look at some rewards of being obedient to all of the feasts. Let's see, 1 through 9. Do not make idols for yourselves, he says. You shall not erect a carved image. Don't they got a carved man on a stake called Jesus? And then he says, or a sacred stone. Don't people, where they say they got their birthstone, you know, in the ear, or their birthstone in the rings or something like that, right? He says, for yourselves, nor shall you set up a carved stone for worship in your land. That means any statues. He says, for I, the Almighty One, am your Yahuah. Keep my what? Sabbaths, means Saturday, and my sanctuary. Keep it blessed. I am the Almighty One. If you live in accordance with my statutes, that means you can hear what the Spirit is saying, and are careful to observe my commandments that I tell you through my servants and also from myself spiritually, I will give you your rain in due season. Going back to Jubilee, what we was reading. So that the land will yield its what? Crop, and the trees their fruit. Your thrashing will last till vintage time. I mean, to old. That means you will always have. And he says, and your vintage till the time for sowing. And you will eat your fill of food. Watch this. And live securely in your land wherever you live. I will establish peace in the land where you are, and you will lay down to rest with no one to cause you anxieties. I will rid the country, watch this, of ravenous beasts. And he says, and no sword shall sweep across your land. That means no death shall take even your animals. This was at the time of when they farmed. Wolves and all kinds of stuff were coming, attacking, right? Certain people who therefore wasn't removing all of their blemishes or partialities. So now he says, you will rout your enemies and they shall fall before your word. 5 of you, or your sword, 5 of you will put 100 of your foes to flight, and 100 of you will put flight 10,000 till your enemies fall before your sword. I will, he says, look with favor. Watch this, y'all. Up on you and make you fruitful and numerous, as I carried out my covenant with you. So now this is why we talked about this today, brothers and sisters, because now here it is. This is allowing you to see why these feasts are so important. And many brothers and sisters are not celebrating them because they don't know anything about them. But now that this has been released, even though many other brothers of my brothers have released Passover footage, this is something to also include. Because here it is. This is basically your ingredients now to allow you to see, what do I need to add into this Passover and unleavened bread? What do I need? So now, while looking at our calendar, I'm going to go to the calendar. Watch this. And as we done pointed out to you, excuse me, Father. So now let's go into the calendar. So you can write down the time and the when you are to celebrate this coming up Passover and this upcoming unleavened bread. Now, like I say, any of you want a calendar, you will actually go to YAHWEN mentor at gmail.com. Put in the subject, please send calendar, or requesting a Hebrew calendar. We'll get that out to you as fast. It's free. And it'll be in PDF. So now realize April is the first month. Now you got two calendars we're going to be dealing with. One is the Hebrew calendar and the other one is the American calendar, man-made. But we must show you the days, the proper days, because like I said, we don't live in our land anymore. We live in a foreign land. So that means here it is. The day comes different than it over here. Night is here, day over there. So Yah already knew about that, and he decreed this upon the priests, so therefore they can go over this with multitudes of Israelites, such even myself. So now here it is. We are seeing that clearly in April, you have your new moon, which would be the 5th. Which would be the 5th, because here it is, that is closing off March. Now, when we go over and look at the calendar, your regular American calendar, the day for Passover will be the 18th of April. That's right, the 18th of April, and the 17th will be preparation. And then we see the Passover, and then we see on the 19th of April, I hope y'all writing these down. Mark your calendar, mark your phone. The 19th is unleavened. That's the day unleavened for 7 days starts. You would do unleavened from the 19th all the way, to the 26th, which would be the way sheaves, which is be the closing. So that will be unleavened bread going from the 19th all the way to the 25th. And just like we seen with the Jubilee, the 50th month will be like the ending or new beginning. So we have the way she's on the 26th. That's the closing. And then as we see a new moon comes back into play on the 5th. And that will be in May, another new moon. But there's no holiday there. So now as we continue to go and look in June, now go till June, because now we're done with Passover unleavened bread. And now we're doing the Feast of Weeks, because that will be in June. Now in your standard American calendar, you will do the Feast of Weeks will start on the 14th of June. And that is on the irregular calendar of June. And that's the Feast of Weeks. And we talked about the Feast of Weeks. And now, as we see, Feast of Weeks are there in June. Then, let's see here. Skip over July, August, September, and now we're in October. Now, October, we're seeing the Day of Atonement, okay? And as we talked about it, we've seen it in the Bible. That will be October 12th and 13th, evening to evening. And then after that, in the same month, on the 18th, all the way through to the 25th, we see Boots, which is in October 18th, all the way to the 23rd, and then the 25th, which is the great day. Then we see a new moon on the 3rd, going into the next month of November. Then January, February, and then we are back to March. And then there's no other holidays. There's only like 4. So when we look at here, April, we went into April and we seen the Passover, unleavened bread there. Then June, we see Feast of Weeks. And then that's in June 14th. And then in October, Day of Atonement. Then we have Boots. So there, brothers and sisters, this will be the days for Passover. Passover is falling on the 18th and the 25th of April. Then we have unleavened bread, okay, in April as well. So you want to actually start getting preparations for that's coming up, because here it is. Friday is on the 17th will be a preparation, and the 18th of April will be Passover. And after that, as we see coming in Sunday, we'll start our unleavened bread right after for 7 days. And that's all in April. So one want to get a brisket. If you can afford a brisket, get a brisket. You can get any kind of beef. You can, get roast. You can roast a beef, chuck roast, or brisket, whatever you prefer, but it have to be beef, no pork, everybody, please. That's unacceptable. And make sure that when you do unleavened bread, coming up on the 19th of April, you want to eat the unleavened bread or pita bread for 7 days. You can go to your grocery market store and pick up this type of bread, or if you have a preferred bread store that can make you unleavened bread, or they sell it, then you want to buy it from them and celebrate your unleavened bread. And that's in April. So that's what me and my wife will be doing. She's I sent out my love for her, and she's taking a rest day today. She would have been part of our study today, but she's taking a rest day. And she sent out all of her shaloms to every brother and sister around the world, and to our family members as well, who are Israelites. And we thank everyone for tuning in today for this amazing segment to break down logic here. But we're going to go and look at, I think I wanted to look at a word before I leave. Let's look at inadvertently, because that comes up a lot of brothers and sisters when they say, oh, I've been saying Jesus, Lord and God, I've been doing this, I've been celebrating Christmas, birthdays, and all kind of Thanksgiving and New Year's, and I'll be out there every year for Easter. And this should help brothers and sisters understand the blemish and how to really now add these ingredients into your system, because we know many brothers out there are suffering inadvertently. Now pull up the word inadvertently and highlight that. It's spelled INADVERTLY. It means unintentional, not focusing the mind on a matter. See that? So now when we say inadvertently, we're speaking to brothers who are basically our sisters that are basically partially dead. Because here it is, Yah says, I don't come for the dead, I come for those who are alive. I talk to the living. I'm not the most high of the dead, I'm the most high of the living. So that means here it is, brothers and sisters are basically, here it is, unintentionally at sometimes, some brothers and sisters. But for those who really have been on YouTube and have basically heard the truth and, you know, put this together and that together and understand what's really going on about Hebrew Israelite return in, because here it is, we always inadvertently before, unintentionally sinning, because we was going to church with our grandmama and mamas and many other family members, and we was going to the baptism, you know, signing up and being baptized. But here it is, inadvertently, we didn't know that we was doing wrong until later Yah revealed his name to the world. Then everything woke up, those who are meant to be woke up, right? And here it is, when we did not have focus, Yah put focus back into our minds as a matter of a serious condition to follow. Because here it is, we done seen that anyone that does it, they get these blemishes and these punishments, right? So now here it is, Yah is saying clearly, many brothers are inadvertently, and here it is, unintentionally, and here it is, not focusing the mind on my matter of my festivals. So here it is, tonight have been decreed for all brothers and sisters to put the right ingredients in your Passover and unleavened bread and the rest of your feasts. Otherwise, it's food that just done went to waste. Okay? So until next time we meet again, I am your brother, your friend, Yah. I send out my shaloms to all the brothers and sisters around the world that is teaching and reaching the brothers and sisters, Israelites, and therefore allowing them to know they have now been redeemed and returned unto the Almighty Father himself. Amen.